this is a video idea that I can't take credit for, because it came from one of you. This individual, Lexi by Day 9504. Boy, that name is a mouthful, but it's okay. Lexi here suggested on my last video that, hey, why don't you just go through your favorite old paleo arts, like the ones you actually like, instead of cursed nonsense or even just bad stuff. And I'm like, I mean, technically speaking, a lot of the old paleo arts I've been looking at, I don't necessarily hate all of them. I like quite a few, but going over my personal favorites, I mean, that's not necessarily a bad idea. The problem I ran into is that my opinion in terms of, like, favorite old paleo art changes kind of all the time, because I like quite a lot of it. So narrowing it down to just a handful and say, yes, this is my absolute favorite 100%, and that'll never change is basically impossible. But I could still give you a little top five of my favorites. These aren't necessarily the top 5, but these are top 5 of my favorites. Now, at least one of them may not be that old, because I'm not sure on it. I'll explain when I get to it. But it was so awesome that I couldn't not put it on here. The rest are fairly dated, but they're all really, really good for what they are. And I really like them. So let's go over stuff that I actually like this week, which of course means that basically no one's going to watch this one, and I'll have to do cursed stuff the following week to get views, because everyone watches me suffer. That's why you're here. It's okay. It is no different from over at History in the Dark, when I had to keep talking about bad locomotives every other week, because everyone hates me, I guess. I don't know. But, you know, whatever. Here we go. Alright, so I'm actually going to try to include the artist's name, given I like the pieces. And this is a piece by Mark Hallett, who has been responsible for a number of paleo art pieces over the years. He's American, lives in Texas, I believe. And what we have here is a herd of Diplodocus. Fantastic shading, beautiful sky, really, really nice piece. But the real reason it's one of my favorites, probably more than anything else, and by probably I mean definitely, is the angle. Now you're probably confused. What the heck do I even mean by that? Okay, so think back. How often, when it comes to any paleo art, do you see sauropods drawn from the front? A few times, yes, but that is a tremendously difficult thing to do. Because of the length of their necks, adding the appropriate depth and shading and all of that is frankly a complete pain in the butt. But Mark not only did that, but did it multiple times with multiple sauropods at slightly different angles. And that's friggin' awesome. It looks great. The only one not at a facing us angle is the one in the back there, which looks like how most people just draw sauropods just to be like, okay, that's fine. We're not gonna do not turn. Please do not turn, because that makes this more difficult. But over here we got all these different angles, and they all look good. Nothing about this looks weird. Mark did a fantastic job. He's a phenomenal artist. If we're gonna rate this in terms of accuracy, my only real complaint is that a handful of these Diplodocus are probably raising their necks a little bit too high. But other than that, it's whatever, you know? And a lot of this old art is gonna have inaccuracies. That's just par for the course. Regardless, I am mostly judging artistic integrity, as well as what they were trying to portray here, and 10 out of 10, absolutely 100% in that category. Pretty much every single one of Mark Hallett's works is fantastic. This just happens to be one of my favorites of his. Now, hold on a moment, Darkness. We've seen this before. And yes, if you remember correctly, I have brought up this piece before when it comes to old paleo art and being inaccurate, because of what's being portrayed here. The old theory that sauropods, particularly brachiosaurs, spent most of their time in the water because they'd be too heavy to be on land. That theory has been long since debunked, And I did show off this piece of art by a Czechoslovakian artist named, Zdeněk? Burian. Or Burian. See, I can't even say his last name right. That guy. Burian, has portrayed this here. The reason I like it, though, isn't because it's accurate, because it isn't. And we know that. But in terms of the quality of the piece, it's phenomenal. Burian's talent really shines through on this one. And the reason I love it is because it would have been really easy for him to just paint the surface of the water with their heads poking out and be done. But no, he gave us both the surface and the submerged view of how this would be if this theory was correct. Now, Burian was pretty well known to be quite imaginative in terms of his portrayals, and the scientific community would often point out issues with how he drew certain dinosaurs. This is obviously another case of that, simply because, well, brachiosaurs did not spend most of their time in the water. But if you're gonna draw that, you can't get much better than this. It looks great. I love the shading on the surface of the water. It looks so good. And just the fact that we have a picture of both the top and the bottom with pretty solid looking brachiosaurs overall. Yeah, they shouldn't be in the water, but I mean, outside of that, their tails should be raised and their necks should be lower, but whatever. I mean, it's a great piece regardless of the accuracy issues. This is actually the one I was talking about when it comes to not knowing how old it is. I think this might be more recent than the rest, so calling this old paleo art probably isn't correct. The reason I'm not sure is that, frankly, I don't know who the artist would be. Now you might be saying, well, isn't that a name in the lower right corner? Correct. Also, can't read it. I have no idea what that says. Can you? I've even tried reverse Google image search to figure out which artist is responsible for this, and even that didn't give me any information regarding it, which is deeply, deeply frustrating because I love it. If it wasn't obvious by some of my earlier videos, whenever I see an herbivore, especially Stegosaurus, standing on business, I am instantly enthralled. It's just awesome to see the Thagomizer being used for what it was for. That Allosaur asked for this, and I mean, this Stegosaurus all alone. He's surrounded by at least 3 Allosaurs, and he's still like, come at me! And that is frickin' baller. If any of you know which artist I should credit, please let me know in the comments. That way I can pin it, because I love it. It's phenomenal, and they deserve credit for doing an amazing job with this kind of portrayal. Oh, yeah! This is a classic one that you've probably seen before. This is a piece by Rudolf Zallinger. And he did quite a number of old-school paleo art depictions. And they're dated, because, man, that tripod stance T-Rex. Top tier. Absolutely phenomenal. But he was a great artist. And what I love about this particular piece is the shading style he employed. Now, not every single one of his pieces does this, but in this instance, the way he shaded it almost gives a bit of a three-dimensional kind of look to it. This is a 2D painting, but he gives a lot of depth. And we have a number of species, all of which are actually accurately portrayed in terms of time period. T-Rex, Ankylosaurus, Edmontosaurus, Pteranodon, and Triceratops. Trike is the only one I'm looking at and thinking, that looks pretty accurate. Ankylosaur looks too small, though I guess that could be a juvenile. Edmontosaur get down on 4 legs for the love of everything! And T-Rex tripod potbelly, oh yeah, that's not accurate. But the actual art is peak. Absolutely gorgeous. I love the flowering. I love the rest of the foliage. This is a really, really solid piece. And if memory serves, he actually did this as a mural for a museum. So, I mean, you can see that he did a fantastic job. And of course, 2 erupting volcanoes for good measure. Absolutely. We had to have it. And last but certainly not least, Charles R. Knight is in the house. And this is arguably his most famous work, being a Tyrannosaurus Rex and a Triceratops squaring up. These two are about to fight to the death. You can tell they're both ready to go. Also, the Tyrannosaur brought his good buddy Carl. Carl has no thoughts in his head. Carl's just here for the ride. Alright, Carl is just here to hang out. He doesn't know what's going on. But everyone loves Carl. Even the Triceratops doesn't mind Carl. Carl's a good guy. Little dim. Actually, very dim. But, you know, he's chill. But these two are gonna duke it out. And we're gonna see how it goes. I appreciate this depiction because even though Carl back there is old school tripod-y to the maximum, the primary Rex in the piece is a lot more accurate. The tail should probably be higher while the rest of the torso should be lower, but he's not dragging his tail. And the trike looks great. Got some nice little water effects, the grass looks beautifully done, the sky looks really nice. I mean, this is solid. Absolutely. And bonus points for Carl. We love Carl. And with that, a special thank you goes out to my Apex Predators, Arthur Roy, and Metal for Life guy. Till next time, this is Darkness, and I bid you all a fond farewell.